Hey everybody, I'm Shane Ireland.
Steve Bobby.
I'm Andy Wake.
And I'm Steve Norse.
Steve, thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, Steve Norse runs a company called Vermont Freehand, a company that's evolved a lot over the years and become a critical piece of the pipe making industry, especially in the U.S., but globally at this point. So, Steve, all of us are familiar with your game, and we know what you do, and we've spent a lot of time at all the pipe shows together, and of course I've been up to visit your operation several years back. For those of us out there who are unaware, can you tell us sort of from the beginning how you came into this business and how the Vermont Freehand business transformed into sort of what it is today, which is the go-to place for most of the artisans in the community to supply themselves with briar and ebonite and all that other stuff that they need to craft the fine pipes that they do?
Yeah, so I was raised a furniture maker and always had interest in woodworking. Helping out a friend's father paint houses as a kid, his father smoked pipe and says, "Steve, make me a pipe." I said, "Mike, I don't know how to make a pipe. I make tables and chairs." And so
I make stuff with no holes in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. Don't put a flame to my work. So I went ahead and made him a pipe just to kind of shut him up, and had so much fun making one. Made a few more. I was very fortunate. We had Pimo Pipecraft, which started in the 70s, and in the 80s it moved up to my little town of Vermont. So we had that right there. Made a few more, and realized really early on that nowhere was a one-stop shop. You needed to go all around the world to get all the supplies you needed.
Tooling, raw materials, like all of it, yeah.
So I started at a very small scale as like an eBay store for many years. It sort of was a side hobby. I had other jobs going on, and it just kind of snowballed, and got to the point where I got rid of my other jobs, focused only on the supply end, started bringing in all the crucial aspects. 20 years ago, we would have to do a group buy where everybody would chip in money to one person. One person would order ebonite from Germany. After 4 months of production, it would finally come to the States, then disperse it. Also, we could get one diameter of one color of ebonite to meet the minimum order. So then, now, 22 years later, we have 300 variations of ebonite on hand, ready to send out. So filling the gap of all the different products that pipe makers need has been a long journey.
Yeah. And I don't think people quite understand. Like, I think everybody knows that the craft itself is time consuming and so much of the work is done by hand and that it's a very laborious process. But in terms of supplies, and this is one of the things that makes it remarkable back in the day when our sort of pipe making forefathers were like making their own tools, because you couldn't just buy a slot tool at vermontfreehand.com, you know? But like, that's the thing is, so there's tooling, there's briar, there's stem material, there's accent materials, there's polishing compounds and everything that you need for finishing, leather dyes, carnauba wax, triple E, white diamond, all that stuff. It's a very long list of supplies that go into making even just the most simple black sandblasted pipe. So how did you approach? You mentioned the minimum order quantity for one size of ebonite, and like, how did you get the business to a point where you could offer multiple sources of briar, different grades, different blocks, all the different stem materials, and all of the other tooling and compound? Like, what does that look like supplier relationship wise? Like, how much did you have to travel to the locations to form these relationships? Like, this isn't something you can just call up and suddenly be a supplier for.
Correct. You know, a lot of the basic things, polishing compounds, dyes, stuff like that is pretty easily accessible. When it comes to briar and ebonite and all that, you need to make relationships with these families. And initially you'll see them at trade shows. Chicago, Vegas would be the ones some of the bigger people come to. The relationships start there. And then you make the pilgrimage out to Italy, to Mimo's, and spend time with the family. And when I'm there, the one rule is we don't talk business. We talk briar. We talk everything about it, but we can do business on email. So when you're there, it's time to get to know the family and be down in the factory and helping out and watering down the burls in the morning and
learning
learning it all, help going up, cutting, sanding blocks. One year went to Mimo's on my birthday and had him take me out into the woods to harvest a briar.
Oh man.
Now he buys briar from his diggers.
Yeah.
So Mimo has only taken people out, I don't know,
Couple of
20, 30 times maybe in his life. So to be able to go out and do that on my birthday and get up on the hillside and learn how it's dug out and bring it back to the mill and saw it up, and then a year later when it's boiled and dried and finally receive that in, it was very, very special.
Give yourself
making those relationships is crucial to the supply chain.
Yeah.
Give yourself some hard labor for your birthday.
Yeah.
No, it's so interesting because it's like the further down the supply chain you go, the more micro business everything is. You can't just call up, a briar digger and like, hey man, you want to go like source some burls for me? No, I mean it's like a super specialized, labor-intensive skill that only
Fragile little ecosystem, kind of.
The amount of energy that goes into a pipe.
Yeah.
The diggers who dig it, the donkeys carrying those sacks down the mountainside.
Don't forget about the donkeys.
Nope.
The mill cutting everything up.
Well, even before they cut it, the curing,
Curing.
like the boiling of the blocks, like sorting everything, keeping them humidified so they don't crack. Like, there's just a crazy amount of steps that go into it even before it's a raw block of wood.
And it's got to be an amazing feeling, like for you, for a lot of people, but for you in particular, where you've put all this work and all this energy into getting this little block of wood and sourcing it and, getting the full supply and quality control, all those sorts of things. When you finally get that to a pipe maker and then months or years later, you see the pipe that they made out of that briar, that's got to be just like an incredibly satisfying like moment of pride for you to see that end result.
It really is, because so many pipe shows, I can go around to all the vendors and I know who orders what, and so to be able to see a whole table of perfectly finished pipes and know that between me and the one pipe maker, it went from raw form to finished, and it's really gratifying.
And then even at the pipe show, you get to see somebody buy that pipe and then maybe light it up. And actually enjoy it.
Bring it to
and
life.
then at
Kinda.
that same show, they're buying more blocks, and the cycle continues.
Yeah.
I will also say, and I know that you know this, Steve, but I feel like it warrants acknowledgement. I think one of the reasons that your business has been so successful and so dominant in this field at this point, yes, like you run a tight ship, the relationships on the supplier side, you've got those on lock, the selection's great, you can think like a pipe maker, you know how to make pipes, like there's a lot of that goes into it. But I think one of the other pieces of it too is your relationships on the other side of it, because I have seen on so many occasions, first of all, people flock to your room at the shows. One of the first questions all the pipe makers ask when they get there is, where's Steve's room? Like, is his room open? Like, blah, blah, blah. And it becomes a place of congregation and like smoking and drinking and friendship and whatever. But also I think a lot of that is because like you were able to keep in your head dozens and dozens of preferences and like conversations that you've had with these guys over the years. And like you said, you know what they want. And that's crazy. Like, yes, they want briar. And yes, they want briar that's free of flaws and has good grain. But it goes so much beyond that. Like certain cuts that certain pipe makers would struggle to pull a shape out of, and other pipe makers love the challenge of. Like, there's so many of those pieces. Like, what do you think stands out to you in your experience over the years working with all these guys in terms of like looking at the raw materials and being able to visualize who they're, because that's the other thing too, is you're going through all these blocks not just for quality but checking the grain and the grading and the pricing and everything else. At a certain level, you're the gatekeeper of like who gets this and who gets that and who gets this, and like how does that play into it, and like where do you sort of come up with those priorities, and where do you sort of think like, okay, this is best utilized by this person or whatever?
So when I bring briar in, there's various stages to make sure it's dried and cured, and sometimes a category sells out and you're selling it a little wetter than you anticipate. When it is coming in, and sometimes I sand the blocks down, clean off the plateau, there will be various people who want very specific things.
Yeah.
When JT Cook was making pipes, he wanted a certain spacing in ring grain. He wanted blocks that showed more dominant rings than it did
Than vertical,
grain.
yeah.
So those characteristics were for him. Someone like Micah Kreider, who can really take a block with really unusual grain patterns and come up with something that fits that pattern.
Yeah.
So he'll want a very particular style of surface of plateau and grain structure. And so very specific things I set aside. And it coincidentally, all those specific things, if I was to give that to 75% of the people, they'd be unhappy with the block.
Right. Right.
So knowing what people want and
Yeah.
everything is very crucial to
Yeah.
getting it all in the right hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in a large sense, you're curating the pipes that exist on the market.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a labor of love in and of itself.
Yeah.
And kind of along those same lines, also at pipe shows, I have seen you coaching new pipe makers, both on how to like craft pipe, what to look for in briar, and then also coaching them on the business side of things because you know it from that perspective.
Yeah.
You've got your hands in, like you've seen people come into the industry and go to the top of the craft and the top of the industry. You've seen people kind of like burn out. So I've seen you like walking pipe makers through, what do you do with this briar? What do you look for in a briar? And then once you've got pipes, how do you actually run this as a business?
Yep.
I mean, it's just like the amount of
Support.
support that you put into the craft and the hobby is, and the industry is just incredible.
Yeah.
I'll also put you on blast a little bit. Steve was awarded the Master of Pipes by the Chicago Pipe Club 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think what our Steve is talking about here is
number two.
Steve 2 is talking about here is definitely the justification for that. Like, I don't think, I know the pipe makers recognize it. I think the community largely does. And for our viewers out there that weren't aware of your game, like I said, there would be less pipes on the market. There would be less makers. Everybody would be struggling more to source these materials and the quality that they're able to source now. Like what you've been able to do on a pre-industry side for pipe making specifically, which is let's be real here, it's a dwindling craft. There are a few stewards left who do this. Pipe making is hard. It's a labor of love. And what you do and what the briar cutters and people digging up the briar burl, that is even more a labor of love, I think, than the crafting of the pipe, which is sort of the like penultimate, like final product like you can be proud of. Like on the pre-industry side, to put that much effort and love into it is remarkable. And I think all of us smokers and collectors and all the pipe makers certainly are in your debt for that. Like it's something that is probably still even underappreciated, really. And I'm kind of curious what because I know you and I know that it is a labor of love, what do you love about it?
You know, what I like the best is, I do consider myself a steward of briar, first and foremost. Sure, the other supplies. The briar, it might be the lowest profit margin out of anything.
But it's the most complicated.
But yes, it's the most complicated, involves the most time, and being able to connect the right dots at the right time do the best I can with what I got. I've always had that approach in life, and taking that into this business really pays off. And being able to see people who like certain things and facilitate those things and watch them grow far past what I could ever make in a pipe.
Yeah.
Is really neat seeing.
Yeah.
And the most important thing in the industry for the entire pipe tobacco industry is keeping those makers coming in, keeping those new smokers coming in, and making sure that all the questions they have and the direction they take is helped along the way. There's so many questions I had when I started, but I didn't have the people to ask. There was no one to answer those questions.
Yeah.
You sort of got to figure it out on your own. And now we've got an industry where we can access
Share that
this
information. Yeah.
quicker. And
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think going back to something that you said, like it's so much more than just like stabilizing the supply chain or like facilitating the supply chain. Like what you do, Steve, it actually affords space for innovation. Like without what you offer, we wouldn't see any of the emerging sort of trends that we're seeing with like new materials or like particular even finishes or sandblasting patterns. Like all of this is like dependent on the materials.
Yeah.
And being able to have a relationship that a pipe maker trusts, that you then have relationships from briar cutters and others in this sort of industry. Like all of this is sort of creating a space where not only can we continue making pipes that are interesting and beautiful and functional, but we can continue pushing the craft further. Like innovation didn't die in the 60s and 70s in Denmark, you know what I mean, with freehand, Danish freehands and stuff. Like we're still pushing that envelope today.
And if pipe makers were spending more time chasing down tooling and supplies, that's less time taking.
Yes.
That's less time
Absolutely.
that they have for the craft. Yeah. I've heard so many pipe makers over the last year, especially ones that have been around a long time, say things like, I used to not be able to find this stuff.
Yep.
Or if I did, it was like luck of the draw, whatever. Like bamboo was a big one. Like bamboo was a difficult thing for guys to source. And then now they basically are like, I know I can just go to Steve and more or less get exactly what I'm looking for, exactly what I need. Diameter and size and coloring and like funky bamboo and all that kind of stuff. And it's so nice that they have access to that and that it can sort of fuel their creativity. One more question I was going to ask Steve is if there's anything about the craft of pipe making, specifically maybe the pre-industry side, that you could communicate to customers, collectors, smokers. What's the most important thing for those of us who don't understand the craft or don't do the craft? Like, what should we understand?
The amount of people have to compromise to get what they want. Sure, if we could make the most ideal thing every single time, we would. But every step along the way, that whether it's the digger, the cutter, the seller of briar, the pipe maker, everyone has to make compromises and do the best they can with what they have. So by the time we have a finished pipe, the amount of people using so much effort to get to the best they can do for that project, so much more goes into it than anyone will ever realize.
It's a really special thing we have going here, and the layers behind what makes it special are sort of endless. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been in it like it's our life all day, every day for a long time, and you still learn new stuff all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that all these different things can come together with natural products and niche markets and labors of love and just all these things that economically on paper maybe shouldn't work,
Right.
but that we get amazing pipes and get to have these kinds of amazing experiences out of it is, I mean, it's surreal. The way all of that just comes together as often as it does, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's singular and like anything else that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
It's like so unique.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's such a fraternity, like a true, I don't know, like we're all part of this collective thing that we're trying to preserve and carry forward. And it takes,
Effort.
a lot of effort and also like a lot of, very skilled and talented and dedicated individuals, like, from the pipe maker to Steve to the people, digging in the ground, finding these burls that are going to eventually become pipes,
Yeah. Speaking of that, what's everybody smoking?
I got my El Churchio Longshank apple.
Stanwell apple.
Yep.
Yeah. This is a, it was the anniversary of the system pipe, a deluxe system anniversary Arua
Yeah.
that I've been smoking a lot.
That's a killer, Rua.
It's
a
crazy.
killer
It's also it's an 8S, which wasn't on my radar for a very long time, and it's becoming one of my favorite system shapes.
Yeah, for sure. I've got my little Emiliano Canadian. Really good pipe. It is a smaller bowl, so we were smoking some 100-year-old tobacco. If you haven't checked that video out,
You
please
didn't want to
do.
get out your group 6?
I wanted to
take half of
I
that
wanted to be
10.
mindful. I want to be mindful. I did take way too much though, so I have a second bowl.
I'll help you out.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, very convenient that you, I accidentally took 2 bowls.
Oh, my eyes are bigger than my bowl.
My eyes are bigger than my bowl.
I'm smoking the smallest pipe JT Cook ever made.
Yeah.
My go-to pipe, my favorite pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a killer pipe.
It's
and
so-
just so immediately recognizable as JT.
Yeah. The blast, the stem,
Yeah.
all of it. Yeah. Well, Steve, thank you so much. Good to see you down here. Good to talk about Vermont Freehand. Anybody out there that's interested in pipe craft or wants to level up their game, vermontfreehand.com is the only place to do it.
Absolutely.
See you next time, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks all.
Thanks.